Hello, welcome back. It is that time again. The Manchester derby is upon us. I'm pretty stressed about it. I don't know how you guys feel. In the chat, in the comments, get involved right now. How are you feeling? How are you doing? And do you expect Manchester United to beat Manchester City? It's going to be a tough game for Erik ten Hag's Reds, but there are things that Manchester United could do to unlock the door and get the big 3 points. Manchester United have had a pretty terrible start to the season, if we're all honest. The last few games have been a bit of a slogfest. The win against Copenhagen, the 2-1 win against Brentford after Scott McTominay's heroics. It's been a bit up and down, but do get into the chat how you're all feeling. We'll talk about all the tactical side of things today, talking about how Manchester United need to utilise the flanks on the counter-attack, how they could utilise a kind of aggressive press in the midfield areas, squeezing super high. It's going to be a really interesting game to see how Erik ten Hag adjusts against Manchester City. But anyway, we're going to get into all of that today. It's going to be a great old show today. Jumping into the comments for this first time, welcome to Josh, Mudder, Rick, Radu, Baz is in here, Shane's in here, Mark, Ben as well. All the people of the chat, welcome today. And let me know what you think is going to happen with this game and how it's going to be kind of won and lost. I think first and foremost, Manchester United have got enough to beat City. If we do look at the recent games between the two sides in the Premier League, you've got some performances that United could kind of hang their hats on. Of course, the 2-1 win at Old Trafford last season. We had the Bruno Fernandes goal that was quite controversial, got VAR'd for offside, then was awarded, and obviously Alejandro Garnacho assisting Marcus Rashford for the winner in the derby last year. The pre-COVID derby was the last derby that I went to at home. Scott McTominay scored from close to the halfway line. That was another performance where Man United really dug in and were aggressive. That was actually under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in a back three system. Should Erik ten Hag play a back three this weekend? All these key questions we are going to answer. I do think for Manchester United, just where they sit in the Premier League at the moment, it is really got to be time to kick on now. 8th in the Premier League for Manchester United at the moment is just simply not good enough. The goal scoring and the conceding at the moment is very, very poor. United with a negative goal difference. And I think we look at some of the games from this season. Some of the performances have just been, nowhere near the standard. The performances against Brighton, Crystal Palace at home where United didn't take their chances. It's a big run for United coming up. Newcastle, Fulham, Copenhagen in the league. This is the big one that they need to get the job done. Before we dive in, though, let's talk about Harry Maguire. Has Harry Maguire cemented his future at Manchester United? Harry Maguire has been Manchester United's best player over the last weeks. Man of the match performances against Brentford, Sheffield United and Copenhagen. He won the game against Copenhagen with a header at the back post. Statistically, Harry Maguire is doing everything he needs to do. He completed 87% of his passes against Copenhagen, was decent in the duels, scored the goal, dominated possession, looked quite good. Obviously, Andre Onana saved the penalty at the death, but Harry Maguire's performances through that game were very good. Obviously, against Manchester City, it's going to be a different questions are going to be asked that Maguire has got to deal with against Erling Haaland, which is a completely different cup of tea. But looking at his performance against Brentford, as well in the league, really good ball playing at the back, controlling things, switching the play. 10 out of his 12 accurate long passes completed. He is putting in a number of good performances. Do get into the chat. Let me know what you think about Maguire and how you think he's done so far in the Premier League. Right, jumping back in, who have we got? We've got Wayne in the chat, Wayne Rooney in the chat. Have to include Onana in the build-up play if we want to beat City. We've got Shady in the chat saying, "Sup, Dave? Welcome. Radu saying, but our game gives me 0% hope. For the match. Yeah, there's there will be some hope. After today's show, guys, there will be a little bit of hope, so don't worry about that. I will get the job done. Mark, should Maguire start at the European Championships? Is a great question from Mark. I'd love to see Lewis Dunk play for England a lot more. I think he's had an outstanding last 12 months. Playing for Brighton and Hove Albion. Should Lindelof start ahead of Reguilon? We'll answer that question as we roll through. So let's start looking at the tactical side of things. I've got Manchester United set up in a 4-2-3-1 shape with Højlund, Eriksen, Bruno Fernandes and Rashford as the front four, McTominay and Amrabat in midfield, and of course Reguilon, Maguire, Varane and Diogo Dalot at the back. Manchester United's back sort of 5 players this season, have had wobbles at times, and we're starting to see a bit of a maybe more consistent backline. We saw against Copenhagen, Diogo Dalot, Raphael Varane, Harry Maguire, Sergio Reguilon. They made up the back four with, of course, Andre Onana between the sticks. This is maybe is United's strongest back four right now. It's just not, if we compare that to the top teams in the league, it's kind of nowhere near that from a perspective. I think it's kind of not what United want. It's not what United have got to utilise in the final third and so forth. The build-up play is so important with how United play, and at times Manchester United are far too slow out of the back, which gets teams that play them just kind of move into their defensive structure and allow United to kind of play that kind of passive football around. And one of the big things that City are not going to allow United to do is have time on the ball. The aggression will be there from the two forwards in Haaland and Alvarez, and the whole team will condense. They'll press in a diamond structure, either Rodri pressing high or alternatively Kovacic pressing high. It's going to be difficult for United to play out the back. I think from a perspective from Manchester City, it's kind of how do they load their midfield as well? Do they go with their kind of big team formation and structure this season? We've seen, against the likes of Arsenal, City have gone with an extra midfielder in there. For United, it probably would be bringing Bernardo Silva into the team, potentially moving Alvarez wide and having kind of, City pressing a little bit more aggressively with Bernardo Silva in there. Squeezing the play and so forth, maybe with Haaland coming in from the other side. That's going to be the issue. Teams have done really well against United when they force them down United's right. We saw at the start of the season, Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Raphael Varane really struggle to play against the likes of Wolverhampton Wanderers, against Tottenham. But I do think with Diogo Dalot in there, United have got a proper ball player and a player that's really excelled. Diogo Dalot's form this season has been absolutely superb. This is a big game, and I think with United, it almost feels like some of these players get up for big games, and that's where I'd have some confidence going into this. In terms of what we could learn from maybe previous derbies, there's a lot of different things that we've got for Manchester United. And I think the big thing, going into this game is that City will be without Akanji. Is that a blessing in disguise or not? I'm not exactly sure how I view that right now. It does mean that Josko Gvardiol will probably come into the starting lineup. Walker will probably play slightly deeper, so expect City's kind of build-up shape to change in this match, instead of it being kind of the shape we've seen this season that City move into, which is kind of, let's just move them back to their normal structure with Jeremy Doku on the pitch. So usually in terms of their kind of 4-2-3-1 shape, 4-4-2 shape that they defend in, it usually moves in a sense of what we see is Phil Foden tuck inside, Alvarez move to the inside left position, Doku obviously hold the width in the final third, and then Walker attacks really aggressively. Why I like this shape, why I think this would be beneficial if City go down this line against Manchester United, is the sheer amount of space that Marcus Rashford could find himself in on that left wing, or alternatively Alejandro Garnacho when he comes on, which I think has got to be a thing for United in the game. I also, when that change is made, Garnacho comes on, I want to see Marcus Rashford move to that 9 position. I think, when you look at what Erik ten Hag's done this season versus last season, Rashford hasn't finished the games as a 9, and I think he did quite well in certain matches, especially against Manchester City in the derby, from that central position. That needs to start coming back into Manchester United's game. But yeah, that'll be a benefit of City's structure if they play the way they've been playing this season. What I do expect, though, is I expect them to kind of go back. I think, there will be an inverted fullback role for Kyle Walker in this game. I think it'll be that classic kind of City structure where we'll probably see Phil Foden a little wider, Alvarez maybe inside right, Kovacic moving into the advanced areas as playing as that kind of the Gundogan role, Stones moving into that midfield zone, and then City creating that back three with the 2 inverted fullbacks either side of Ruben Diaz. We did a video on inverted fullbacks actually. If you want to go check that out, it's on the channel. It's a banger. We're going to Johan Cruyff's Barcelona. We talk about how inverted fullbacks facilitate roles like liberos in a back four, stepping out into midfield, or inverted fullbacks. But I expect City to set like this to deal with United's transitional danger through Marcus Rashford, Højlund and Bruno Fernandes. What that means for Manchester United, they've got to be aggressive, I think, in the build-up. They went man for man. In the last derby, they were super aggressive in that midfield area. The pressing structure was good. They sat in kind of a narrow 4-2-3-1. I don't like this shape for most games, but where this shape actually works is against Manchester City. So there's a lot of different things here that Manchester United actually do quite well. And Ten Hag spoke in his pre-match press conference about how United were winning the ball back most in the middle third. They've had the most high turnovers that led to shots. I like that. This structure is good against City. It stops teams playing through Manchester United. It blocks you off playing into that kind of central area. It would create a big game for the likes of Phil Foden versus Reguilon, or Doku versus Diogo Dalot, but it'd block off that middle area. And if City wanted to play through that middle area, the ability to steal the ball, then quickly transition with a quick passing combination could work well. And that's exactly how Man United played in the last derby at Old Trafford. Very similar, narrow 4-2-3-1 with Christian Eriksen playing off Anthony Martial, believe it or not. So in terms of the overall structure, we'll just go a little bit through that right now. With Manchester United, this shape, very much man-to-man. You've got Christian Eriksen dealing with Rodri. You've got Casemiro high on Bernardo Silva. You've got Fred high on Kevin De Bruyne. Martial shadowing that pass into Rodri. It also works out in a sense where Eriksen will jump at times and Martial will sit on Rodri, very narrow in the width. This has its natural advantage against City that want to play through you. The issue with Manchester United this season and how it's disorganised, we spoke about this many times, if the ball gets switched out to a fullback, the central midfielders get dragged over, causes a bad effect further down the pitch. United have conceded 14 goals this season in the Premier League. If you look at teams in Europe's top 5 leagues, they're in the bottom 30 teams. That is just not good enough, and that's why I don't like this pressing structure, overall. But good for this game, good in this specific moment. Manchester United did really well to marshal City, especially in the early parts of the game. They forced City into passes or moments they didn't want to be involved with. This was one from the opening 10 minutes of the match. Manchester United again sitting in that narrow 4-2-3-1. The other big thing that United did quite well was kind of follow Haaland out of defence. When Haaland was trying to get involved at the tip of that kind of middle diamond, Haaland at the tip with Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne and Rodri anchoring it. United were quite aggressive on Haaland in their own half, but they allowed him to drop off and they kept their structure when he moved into the Man City half. But if we just have a look at the shape, you can see Fred at top of the shot on De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva's getting picked up by Casemiro, Eriksen's going to jump out here and put pressure on the football. Great setup. This is good. This is good when you play Manchester City. Rafael Varane could jump and step on Haaland if he needs to, but this setup overall is really good. It looks good. It forces a mistake from City. Ball goes into the feet of Bernardo Silva with Casemiro on his back. Tries to switch the play. United's narrow 4-2-3-1, as we previously spoke about, kind of the narrowness of the shape and structure. Having that ability to, jump in. Let's say if we just go, for argument's sake, it's going to go out to step for Rodri. The natural advantage of this shape is you can jump quite easily on and intercept that pass. United did that in this moment in the opening 10 minutes of the previous derby at Old Trafford, won the ball high, then transitioned. The key thing against City is transitioning into the channels, attacking the channels, because their defence will naturally narrow, as we see here, open up massive space. And why I would start Christian Eriksen in this game is because I thought he was really good in the other derby. I thought his guile in attacking midfield and his natural creativity gave United a lot of options. In this this clip, obviously Rashford steps in and intercepts, links with Eriksen. Eriksen turns, instantly finds Bruno Fernandes in behind Joao Cancelo, who just fires wide. And I think that's the kind of start point. United's narrow press actually suits this game, and I would continue with this narrow 4-2-3-1, independent of how City are building up. I think in if they're building with a 3 or they're building with a 4 or they're building with a 2, this kind of works for me in terms of this pressing structure. And I just saw a man's name in the chat, Fred. Fred did a very good man-marking job on Kevin De Bruyne. Ben crying with Fred as well. Little crying emoji Fred. And I genuinely think one of the issues United have had this season is they didn't replace Fred. They didn't replace a like-for-like energetic midfielder that can press, that can harry, that can, be in the squad for these types of games. Ferguson had them all through his tenure in there. Radu, why no Mount, Dave? Well, so I think Mount could be used as a second-half substitute, is how I'd frame it up. I just really thought that Eriksen was superb in that first half of the derby, playing in the number 10. Not only was it that chance we just saw that he created for Bruno Fernandes, but he was kind of involved in some really good stuff, some quick football. One of the big things United need to utilise in this game, we spoke about this before, when they win possession, it's the up-back-through methodology. It's playing that first pass into the feet of a forward, it's then the layoff, and then looking for the next person, up, back, through. It works against Manchester City. City obviously are a very, very good team, but you can get them in those moments and in those games. And I think having someone like Christian Eriksen at number 10 would really help Manchester United, not only to target City when they're pressing, but also just to quickly link and look for the through balls. Here's another clip from the game against Manchester City at Old Trafford, and it's that methodology. Fred firing into Rashford's feet, the layoff to Fred, and then Fred instantly inside to Christian Eriksen, Rashford running off the ball, attacking the space either side of the two centre-halves. And it's simple stuff. It kind of works in a real simple way where if you instantly fire that ball in and go, you can really open up Manchester City's shape and structure. And I just feel like with Eriksen, he's got that guile to play that pass, straight away versus a Mount. So we're talking kind of, it being fired into the feet of Rashford. Then the defence is pulled over, dropped off to Scott McTominay, fed to Christian Eriksen, then Eriksen looking for his international teammate in behind. I really feel you could get at City in these channels with Rasmus Højlund. Not only his pace, but his ability to take someone on 1v1 could be a real asset for this game. But yeah, that's why I'd start Eriksen over Mount. I think Mount would be a second-half substitute. I think, going down to the substitutions we mentioned before, Alejandro Garnacho on for Marcus Rashford. I think then looking at Mason Mount on for Christian Eriksen to give United that real energy. Of course, if they want to go a little further as well, Anthony coming off, potentially moving Bruno to a deeper position if United are chasing the game, could work quite well. But I think having that starting 11 for me just kind of makes sense of Eriksen in there, Bruno Fernandes wide, Marcus Rashford causing issues for them. Of course, I would, if Casemiro is fit to start, definitely start Casemiro in this game. Needs the kind of the leadership and the quality. Jeffrey, hey Dave, this is a unsang, but with Martial in the pitch, we've scored more than we've not beaten. So he scored more with him than we have without him against City in the Premier League. Absolutely, he's been quite good. Kev, how does Hannibal play a role considering the suggested tactics? I think the place he put Hannibal in would be in that number 10 area. Again, I'm kind of frustrated that Hannibal's not really had that much of a shot since his little run. I thought he's been really good. One of the big things I think with you needed to play Scott McTominay for a few games because he deserved it with his form. This may be a game for an Eriksen first, but maybe for a Mejbri second. I think Mejbri's aggression could be used. United have looked at their best this at times this season with Mejbri and Alejandro Garnacho when it comes to pressing. Transitionally been a lot better with those two guys on the pitch. It's part of Rashford's game that he really needs to work on. The defensive side of his game at times is very, very poor. And if United are going to beat Manchester City, it has to be a team effort in there. But yeah, so we spoke about a few concepts there. The narrow press for Manchester United, which will help them in this game. Squeezing City, we spoke about City's kind of build-up, probably building with a 3, but still this narrow shape is good. You imagine they're dropping deep, you've still got that ability to squeeze the play and be super aggressive. Obviously, the issues will come when City work it out and start playing the balls over the press. So then it's about United transitioning aggressively defensively, like being super aggressive in the defensive transition, getting back into position so your centre midfielders don't get caught out all the time. I think is the big thing. Because that's where it should come. The transmission phase when it comes to pressing is when the ball is in the air for a long time. It's taken a while to get to the other side. Let's say if Gvardiol hit a switch or Edison played a long pass. That's when the work needs to come in. And it needs to be that, not that. which especially on Rashford's side, we get that far too much. And I think that's another reason why Bruno has to start in this game, because he's very defensively responsible, that when that pass has been played over the top of his head, that he's getting back into position. Rashford needs to do that or United will lose the game. Simple as that. So we've got other things that we want to talk about today, and I think any questions, do keep them coming into the chat. But I do feel that this City team at the moment, they aren't the greatest when it comes from when they've lost the ball and they're trying to regain their defensive structure. And of course, we've got some examples for that, guys, because that's why we're here. That's why we're doing this. That's why we're getting involved. But I think one of the games that I'd look at from this perspective would be a recent Man City game where they actually lost in the Premier League against Wolverhampton Wanderers. Wolves were absolutely brilliant. And this was kind of the big... this was another part of the Pedro Neto season, which I'm really getting on. Pedro Neto was sensational in this game. That followed up from, he had a really good game against Liverpool, then a superb game against City, a game later. And Pedro Neto caused City so much problems. So this is the other part of the thought process here, where City, obviously, in terms of their structure, they hold the ball, they control the tempo, but Wolves found a really good way to kind of win the ball in that middle third and then break with their three forwards. And it very much came from a dribbling right winger, which, if Anthony was in any sort of form, would be great to play him there on the right-hand side, because City look very, very, very vulnerable in these moments. So it's a way you can get at Manchester City. You look at the space we've spoke about a few times, independent of their build-up, whether it's 2-3, 3-2, 5-2, whatever we want to describe it, there is still always going to be space in the transition on either side. And whether it is Josko Gvardiol, who I hope it's not, to be fair, because I think Josko Gvardiol is a brilliant footballer. If it is Nathan Ake, Man United actually changing it and going with a little bit of pace in Anthony could be a really good recipe. But the big thing here for Anthony being in this game is he has to go wide. This isn't a game for him cutting back. This is a game for running the centre-back, wide. It's really, really important that. It can't be a Anthony classic move, stop, cut inside, wait. It has to be quick. It has to be on the side in there. It really has to be like that. Just jumping back into the chat from Gavinchko. Dave, I see why you want both Eriksen and Bruno on the pitch, as Eriksen is quality off the right wing. He and Bruno can interchange on that side, so Højlund can be serviced. Absolutely. Radu in the chat. I'm curious. I understand McTominay's pick for his attacking output, but now he gave away 2 pens. Why would we have him play a defensive role? I think the only reason why I'd play him in this game is I think United need someone in that deep position that's got some physicality, that can carry, that can tackle. If Casemiro is not fit, for me, it has to be Scott McTominay. I just think that security there, Radu, is really important. And, McTominay's had some good games against City in his time at United in terms of being aggressive off the ball, being kind of watching the free eights drop into the defensive line. He's comfortable at picking up that position, can also carry through the midfield, but I would obviously prefer it to be Casemiro. I want that attacking side to be a little different. Either we go, as we mentioned here, Anthony in that dribbling role, but very much hitting the byline, or we go with Christian Eriksen's guile, and of course Bruno Fernandes making movements off the ball. Why we go for the dribbling? Got some examples for you. Here's Wolves' first goal against Manchester City. We can clearly see the Wolves' defensive structure. Narrow 4 in midfield. Again, Man United need narrowness off the ball massively. We spoke about the 4-2-3-1 narrow shape. Really need to work hard. Both wingers need to drop back. It's so important for them to drop back in the defensive third because it almost creates that counter-attacking moment versus them staying high and being lazy. Has to happen. Wolves set up with a back 5 in this game. I don't think United will do that, but the back 5 usually does quite well against City. But the big thing in terms of these moments that United get, why Anthony might be better than playing Bruno Fernandes out there, it's just for the general carrying and the pace that he adds into the attack. And if we look at City now, City don't really respond very well to this counter-attack. So Pedro Neto wins it in midfield and instantly breaks past Phil Foden, beats him for pace. But you could see the bodies that Wolves are throwing forward, and then you can start to see the City players drop off. Like Phil Foden's going to give up in a second. It basically creates a back three and a DM that you're attacking. Kyle Walker's massively out of position. Something we mentioned previously. I'd love it if Walker plays the high wide role against Manchester United because it will expose City's outside centre back on the right. But having that direct dribbler to just drive past. Nathan Ake gets beat by Pedro Neto here, does him on the outside, then the centre-back gets pulled over. You can already start to see the problem here. You've got a player on the back post in Hwang that's completely on the blind side of Akanji. You've also got Matheus Cunha attacking the penalty spot. It's good, really good. Look, if you are a young centre-back, look at the way that kind of Diaz is orientating himself. It's really good. He's in a great position now. And he's about to take a little look over his shoulder at Matheus Nunes, gets that picture, drives over and looks to block the shot. Of course, he's covered that pass. He gets pretty unlucky. It deflects over the head of Ederson and goes in. But it's great centre-back play, in my opinion. I love that. The awareness is great. Akanji's also having a look as well. It's perfect. But back to what Man United need to do. It's breaking down that right-hand side with a direct dribbler, hence why we might actually want Anthony to start this game. It's then creating these moments, either, you've drawn that centre, you've beaten Ake on the outside, you've drawn the centre-back over, the cutback's on, but also the back post is on. If Pedro Neto plays either outside of his left foot to the back stick or plays with his right foot to the back stick, goal time. And I think that's something that Manchester United really need to utilise and look for in this game. It's kind of breaking down the right-hand side with that direct pace, direct dribbling, head-up football into the box. Big reason why Pedro Neto should be playing for a top team. He's absolutely fantastic in these types of moments. But yeah, that's the first kind of reason why you want to go down that right-hand side in terms of direct dribbling. In terms of movement, which is what Bruno Fernandes could apply. Wolves' second goal is just a simple move from Nelson Semedo in behind the defence. This would be Diogo Dalot holding the width, simple ball over the top. Again, Nathan Ake exposed in this moment. Kyle Walker been drawn over. Whip ball into the box. Not cleared for Manchester City. But one of the things that I'm thinking out of this, right? This doesn't look like a Pep Guardiola defensive transition. This looks really sloppy. The bodies haven't come back. And it creates a situation where City just can't get the ball cleared. There's commitment for Wolves to throw bodies into the box, and it eventually just breaks. Matheus Cunha slides in Hwang, and it's scored. But the issue for that I've got from this is that is a simple ball over. That's just a clip ball into the channel, fullback running onto it. And you've got a big issue for City. They're defending with 5 players. That's great. I'd love them to do that against Manchester United. Breaks the Hwang goal. So there's areas you can attack this City team. I think that's the exciting part of it. Be it that natural dribbling, or that second example that we just took a look at there, that would potentially be more of a Eriksen, Bruno type thing, with Bruno a little bit more inside. Amrabat, freeing Diogo Dalot in behind. I think if it's either Doku or Alvarez is playing wide left for Manchester City, Diogo Dalot attacking, very, very important. Very, very important. But very interesting at the same time. It's going to be a great battle. Gareth Jones, don't tell everyone, Dave. Pep could be watching. Uh-oh. We've got some problems. We've got some real problems. Giving away all the secrets in the chat. Matt, Højlund right wing thoughts. I tell you what, if United could play a diamond properly, if it transitioned properly, something we spoke about previously is United's defensive diamond structure is great in the final third, very, very poor after that. But again, having him in that out wide area could be really good. And we sort of just spoke then about how we want a dribbler in that area in Anthony. Rasmus Højlund could very much play that role. And him drifting Matt to the right from the centre-forward position, I think it's a really, really good avenue. And that will allow United to really, really drive through. And allow them to have that isolation with Nathan Ake, bodies into the penalty area, goals on the counter-attack. Question, or a point, from Manchester City fan for life. You're comparing us without Rodri. Now Rodgers is back. Lols, you won't be able to break for our defence. Here's a little question for you, Manchester City fan. What would Rodri add for this? Manchester City have still got the defensive midfielder here. The ball didn't break to him. Maybe Rodri's position is going to be a little better, but my point, my overall point is the numbers. 5 players, the back 4 and the defensive midfielder. That doesn't massively change if that's just Rodri. It's exactly the same moment that if you commit bodies to this attack, you will have a good chance of scoring against City. That's my point in a sense. But I agree, Rodri for me is probably the best player on the planet. So it's a massive advantage for City. Of course it is. He is superb. You got to think back, right? I was watching the Bayern Munich City highlights from last season. Rodri scored the first goal of that game, and it was an absolute banger. He scored in the Champions League final. Sensational footballer. But that was my point more. It's not really the people and the components, but it's more the lack of, where's the left winger? Where's the 3 central midfielders? Where's the right winger? That's my point really in there. But back to Matt's question, Rasmus Højlund in the channel, not starting right wing, but drifting over to the right wing. They're alternatively United could actually go for a diamond, but they just need to be a bit better at transitioning. So if United do play a diamond in this game, you probably need to work out who's going to cover the left. Be it Bruno. This is where the bodies aren't quite there. Are you going to go Bruno left, Eriksen right when you drop back into that 4? Because you need to make that 4-4-2 shape. Does that mean then does Casa jump high, Amrabat tucked in? And is that our pressing structure in that sense? And then what happens with build-up? How does that move down? Because technically you're probably going to have to rock someone out. And this is where I struggle with United's diamond. The squad is just not there for how that operates. We just can't. It's a weird shape. What if Bruno is the one that's at the tip of the diamond? Does then Casemiro have to shift out? Or alternatively, is it Amrabat that's going to start on the right and then Bruno will drop deep? That's probably the only way it'll work. Maybe throwing Mason Mount into the equation in there. So Bruno squeezing high, then dropping back in a transitional sense. Where does the width come from? There's too. I do like the idea of having Rashford and Højlund in the channels to attack you, but I don't like the shape of the 4-2-3-1 at the moment, based on United's kind of squad. So let's go back to the shape we were kind of previously talking about. Bruno on the right wing and Amrabat at the base with Casemiro, or obviously McTominay coming in if Casemiro's not fit. Great way to get at City, though, down the flanks. Obviously, Wolves showed in great ways how they can get them in the defensive kind of transition in those games. We've got one more slight bit about United in terms of the break-in as well. Catching the City team with the bodies, in the ball in the opponent's half is kind of where you can really get at them, and it is that kind of instant ball to Marcus Rashford that needs to be utilised over and over again. I think that's a massive, massive part of the game. City fan, how do your defence cope with Alvarez and Doku? Haaland been busy getting marked. Alvarez gets the ball. Yeah, Alvarez is a top quality footballer, and obviously watched Manchester City play Red Star Belgrade this season, and he was superb, directly involved in 15 shots. He is someone that is a big, big threat for Manchester United. I think with what I like about him is that he gets in and around Haaland. He's a little different to the rest of their attackers, where ball goes into the feet of Haaland, Alvarez will try and run off him or link with him, and that was the goal that he scored against Red Star. Ball into Haaland's feet, little take the ball around the defender, finished it off, and he's a dangerous, dangerous player. Very much a second striker in there. He's someone that's going to be a humongous threat. And I do believe Doku as well versus Diogo Dalot is a huge battle. Saying that, Diogo Dalot is literally one of the best defenders in European football 1v1 this season with ground duels. So, he's got a great start point, and it's something that Diogo's worked on. And we need to give players massive credit when they go down these types of improvements and so forth. It's year by year, he's improved. And when, is the biggest kind of competition for him at right fullback is Aaron Wan-Bissaka. He's one of the best players in European football versus dribblers, but Diogo Dalot's numbers have been absolutely outstanding in recent years, and it's credit to him as a player, really credit to him. And when you look at his statistics, they're absolutely fantastic in terms of dealing with dribblers. So he's tackled 84.3% of dribblers that he's faced this season. That ranks him in the top 1% of players in European football. So let's say, I don't and I'll just make these numbers easy, but like 8 out of 10 times against the dribbler, Diogo Dalot has won that tackle. Saying that, Doku is one of my favourite dribblers, and the way that he slows people down and speeds up, it's so perfect for City. I'd argue that it's more perfect than having Jack Grealish in the team, which is the other option off on the left-hand side. Grealish, for me, stops players too much. He stops players too much, and he's too much. There's a lot of times that it will go backwards, whereas Doku's got that natural explosion of pace on the outside. So that's going to be a great battle. Don't get me wrong, that's going to be a great battle in there. I think that will really, really work out. I am worried about the centre-backs for sure. If it is Bernardo, it'll be kind of probably Bernardo on that inside channel if City do build kind of 3-2-5, or alternatively, like we previously spoke about, it might be more of a traditional back four with Walker high, Bernardo deep. I think that's another tactical variation, but that leaves Marcus Rashford 1v1 in the channel. I like that for Manchester United, I really do. That's something that I think would allow United to really break through. But just talking about that kind of like the transitional side and that instant ball out from midfield out wide, that's got to be a constant theme for Manchester United. It was something that worked exceedingly well in the last derby, and it just catches a lot of City players high up the pitch. It catches them in areas that they don't want to really be there. We see it from this clip on 33 minutes. The amount of City bodies in there, it looked quite unorganised for a Pep Guardiola side, but it is a transitional moment. City are trying to press the football and win it back instantly. What United need to be looking for is that instant ball in behind the defence. The amount of space that Rashford's got there behind Kyle Walker, and that's what we kind of spoke about. If Kyle Walker gets stuck in this attacking position, that'll be great for Manchester United. Spring the counter-attack, drop the ball in behind. Obviously, from this moment, Rashford controls, he rounds Ederson, and then just fires over. But instantly, win the ball back and go. Win the ball back and attack. I think that's really, really important. Just from a Man City sort of goal-scoring perspective, having their build-up and their control that we know, I think the link between the front three, or the narrow front three, should we say, between Foden, Haaland and Alvarez is how United have got to really deal with that. That's how they'll get done. We know Phil Foden's ability to dribble, to carry, to so forth, and Alvarez has got real all-round game. We know the danger that Haaland can cause versus Raphael Varane and Harry Maguire. That is pretty scary. I really do believe that is a scary thing in my mind. Real scary. And I think United need to just, stick in the game. They go down a goal, they've got to not lose their heads. I think that's the biggest part. Let's jump back into the chat, see what you wonderful people have got to say. Radu, Dave, talk us through a bit of Erik ten Hag's latest tactical tendencies would influence the approach on Sunday. I think the big thing from recent, it's that narrow diamond. It's the idea that they're going to become the best, the things that he's been talking about for the last few years. Best transitional team in the world of football. I don't agree with that. Is the way that we should be going. We should be going to be the best possession-based team in the world. That's what I would be driving for. But I understand that he's got to work with with what he's got, which is obviously a lot less than what Manchester City have got, for example. But that's where I think the tendencies and the ability to break quickly is going to be so important. United have to take their chances, and one of the things they've not been doing this season is taking their chances. So that's a link where we've got a bit of a problem, because City won't give Manchester United many options. They really won't give United many options. When you're looking at the numbers, it's not great. United have scored 11 goals in 9 games this season. They're averaging 1.2 goals per game. They're creating just 2.2 big chances per game, which is pretty poor, but they're missing 1.7 of those big chances that they're creating. Just 2 clean sheets. They've conceded 13 goals in 9 games, an average of 1.4 goals per game. So their goals conceded per game is worse than their goals scored per game. And they're not taking the chances. Against City, you can't afford to do that. The one time that Højlund may get him behind the defence, he has to put the ball in the back of the net. It's big pressure in this game. It really is. Big pressure in this. 30 in the chat. Walker out wide will stretch United's defence. Foden and Alvarez in the pockets. Rodri can bring the ball out wide. I don't think it's a bad option. I think offensively, obviously, it's very, very good. And it is about how United's midfield gets back and supports the defence. They will probably go man-to-man, Manchester United, in the sense of McTominay and Amrabat picking up Alvarez and Foden. United need to be aggressive on Erling Haaland, of course. It leaves a lot of responsibility on the wingers. It really does. Because, if for example, Doku gets isolated with Bruno Fernandes, that's a pretty bad moment. It does make me want to say that Bruno Fernandes should play wide right, just for that ability to double up on the opposition's winger. It is a massive problem. The bigger issue for me, though, is probably on this left-hand side, this right-hand side, sorry. If Foden and Walker can isolate Sergio Reguilon, they'll easily bypass him. Reguilon's shown good heart and he's shown good quality, but he still can be exposed. And if they do drop a 1-2 or Foden carries on the inside, then feeds Walker in behind the defence, it's going to be problems. Rashford has got a lot of defensive work to do. Needs to be responsible. He needs to put a shift in. Simple as that. That's the position that he needs to be in most of the time. It's defending, it's getting back, it's doing the hard yards. And then when United win it, it's having the speed and the ability to break. It's so important for this match. It really, really is important for this match. Can't emphasise how important this is. You've got to nullify a lot of Manchester City's midfield, their attack, their wingers. It's difficult in that sense. Obviously, from a City perspective, they should really start Josko Gvardiol. I think it's a great game for him. His ability on the ball is absolutely ridiculous. His ability to carry, I think, in this game will be important. With United setting up, as we previously mentioned, with the kind of narrow 4-2-3-1 high, having someone like Gvardiol to carry the ball out of the defence and then utilise his passing to find Doku in a 1v1 is going to be really, really big for it in there. Can United keep a clean sheet? I don't think so. In terms of fantasy football for this week, there is a lot of questions. I've made some transfers, made some early transfers. Made my transfers yesterday. Brought in 2 players. Number 1 being Bukayo Saka. Number 2 being Mitoma for Jared Bowen and James Maddison. Both of them have got good runs coming up. Looking to bring in Tsimikas next week for Udogi. My team looks quite good. Little Pedro Neto. We're Pedro Neto FC, that's all we are. Big Pedro Neto fan. But that's how we look for any fantasy football players out there. Zakaria, mid-block, compact, hit on the break. That's been done before. Absolutely. Man City fan. You will try to counter us and be screwed. It's simply your midfield is a total mess. Is Amrabat that good either? Is Calvin Phillips that good either? That was just a little bit of fun. You got to step up in these big games. I think that's definitely what you got to go for. Edge, what made you take Bowen out? Just rotation. Simply rotation in terms of the fixtures. I think Bowen's got good fixtures. I think Bowen's got a good run. But Mitoma, Brighton have got a tasty little run in the next few weeks. Similar with Saka. Arsenal have got a great run. So the issue was if I didn't take out Bowen, I couldn't get Saka and Mitoma. And that's what I really wanted. I wanted Saka back in, and obviously I got him before the price increase last night. I did my transfers at about 11:20 in the evening. But good stuff. Any more fantasy questions? Do get into the chat. We love fantasy. I'm working on a little thing in the background about fantasy, so hopefully it's going to be exciting. Get a little league going. In there. Johnny, you got Neto, Dan Burn competing against each other. I do, yeah. I think we're just going to have to roll with it. It's one of those situations where hopefully we'll come out with a goal apiece. But even if Neto gets a goal involvement, that means that the Newcastle clean sheet goes, which isn't a bad thing anyway with all the Trippier owners out there. You've got to think toxic. Anthony in the chat, Haaland, Watkins, Saka for FPL captain. I'm actually thinking a little bit about Salah. That's what I'm thinking. I definitely would go Haaland. I think Haaland's probably still going to score. But at the same time, I might personally go for Mohamed Salah in there. You can have Phillips for free. You're not going to be able to give him away, honestly. You're not going to be able to give him away. And finally for Manchester United, let's talk about the final little things. Substitutions are very, very important in this game. What I said previously, as soon as Rasmus Højlund has run his game, Alejandro Garnacho comes on, goes to the left wing, Rashford through the middle. United need to retain that counter-attacking potential. Obviously, Alejandro Garnacho has been one of the best substitutes in the Premier League since he made his Man United debut. His involvement in the second United goal is absolutely sublime, but it takes into consideration a lot of the principles that we spoke about, playing the balls up to the forwards, a direct pass first, then dropping the ball back. Goes into Rashford's chest, drops off to Fred. Fred then hits Bruno Fernandes. Fernandes into the channel. We mentioned this so many times. Channel, attack the channels. That's what Man United need to do. Good sort of, discipline for Alejandro Garnacho. See the two bodies committed at the back post. Something United need to do as well. Create a 2v1. Defended the first attack. Garnacho on the outside, low cross into the box. Marcus Rashford wins the derby again for Manchester United. But big. Substitution's big. But all those concepts, playing direct first into the feet, dropping the ball off, drawing the City defender and midfielder in, then slotting them in behind, committing on the back post. Little bit of creativity in the final third. Simple, innit, football? Very, very simple. Guys, get your score predictions in right now. Let me know what you think the score is going to be for this humongous game in the Premier League. It's so big for Manchester United. It really is. It's scary. It really is. Haaland is due a hat-trick soon. Yeah, maybe this week. But yeah, it's going to be a big one. More comments coming in. Man City fan. Stones will push into midfield. Howell, McTominay, Cope. So we've kind of already previously had a look at that. So it'll be that kind of narrow midfield press. If that's the case, that's just changing John Stones for Bernardo Silva. Walker in the build-up. Bernardo wide. United have got bodies in there. They're still going man for man all across the pitch. So that would be the adaptation there. It would be. One free transfer, 0.2 million in the bank. And you've got Salah, Son, Maddison, Gordon. If you get Sakarin's obviously a big one this week. Score predictions coming in. Parsad is going to go 1-1. Edge is going to go 1-0 United. Radu's going to go 3-1 City. Eddington's going to go 3-0 City. 30's going to go 3-1 City. Johnny 2-0 City. Hibs fan in the chat is going to go 2-2. Nelson with a 5-0 City. Zach's going to go 2-1 United. This is a scary week, guys. This is a scary week. I generally think United got a chance. They always have in these games. They've always got a shot. And, you do take a look at those previous performances. When United went into the last derby, they'd just been spanked 6-3 in the previous derby. They got absolutely mullered by Manchester City. I actually watched this game in Zagreb, and I left I think I left at 5-1. And I went to go and enjoy Zagreb. I went for a sandwich, delicious sandwich. Went for a glass of wine. But that was an embarrassment. And that could happen. City could really open United up. Very, very possible in the game. That day, Phil Foden was absolutely superb. Same with Erling Haaland. But last derby at Old Trafford, City had just 5 shots on goal. United had 8 shots. They outshot City. They outshot City on target. They had a better expected goals. They won the game. It's always there. It is always there. And look at that back four United played. Wan-Bissaka's obviously very tailored for these types of games, but, centre-back pairing of Raphael Varane and Luke Shaw that did really well on the night. Malacia at left-back. I don't know which back four I'd prefer. It's tough. It's really tough. You struggled against Brighton. Yeah, but the derby's different. And you know that. You know that as well as I know that. Exactly. Hibs fan channel. You've always got a chance in derby games, especially at home. Would Porro not be a better option than Tsimikas? Spurs' fixtures go a bit funky in the next few weeks, so I definitely would go Tsimikas. Niall in the chat. United 2-0 win. Fred will be missed, absolutely. We're missing Martinez and Shaw, absolutely, Aiden. Zach, City lost to Wolves and we beat them, so easy win for us. KDB not play. KDB's been ridiculous in recent derbies, hasn't he? He's been so good. Like the 4-1, 2 goals and an assist. It's quite good. KDB's not playing. I'm happy about that. Moyob in the chat's going to go 3-1 to City. All good. Right, guys, that's going to be GG's in the chat. Thanks for everyone that stopped by. We will be back next Friday at the same time to talk more Premier League action, the Premier League preview. Here's my starting 11 if Casemiro is fit. United need to attack the channels. They need to get in behind City's back three in build-up, utilise the back post, score loads of goals. Simple as that. Big GG to everyone today. Thanks for watching. Make sure you smash like and get into the comments who you think is going to win. What's the score going to be? All that good stuff. Much love, and we'll see you all very, very soon. Goodbye, my wonderful people. Hopefully Monday I'll be